Long ago, in the great city of Thebes, on the banks of the Nile River, there lived a clever man named Sobek. Sobek was not a soldier. He was not a priest. He was something new, something rare. He was a detective. People called him the Eye of the Nile because he could see things other people could not see. One morning a royal guard ran to Sobek's small house near the market. His face was full of fear. He said, "Sobek, come quickly. The Pharaoh's personal physician, the wise doctor named Imhotep, has disappeared. No one can find him anywhere." Sobek stood up fast. A missing physician was very dangerous. The Pharaoh was sick, and only Imhotep knew the secret medicine to help him. Without the doctor, the Pharaoh's life was in great danger. Sobek grabbed his bag of tools and walked quickly toward the royal palace, his mind already full of questions. Who would want to hurt the Pharaoh's doctor? And why now, when the Pharaoh needed him the most? As Sobek walked through the busy streets, past merchants selling bread and fish, he felt something strange in the air. This was not a simple case. This was a mystery that could change the fate of all of Egypt. Sobek arrived at the royal palace and walked into Imhotep's private room. The room was full of clues. Small clay bottles of medicine stood on a wooden table, but one bottle was broken on the floor. A window was open, even though it was always closed at night. Sobek looked carefully at everything. He touched nothing yet. He only watched. On the floor near the broken bottle he saw small footprints in the dust. They were not big footprints like a soldier's boots. They were small and light, like the footprints of someone who moved quietly, carefully, secretly. Sobek knelt down and looked closer. Next to the footprints he found something strange, a small blue feather, the kind used only in the fancy headdresses of noble women. Sobek picked it up gently and held it. In the sunlight, this feather did not belong to a god or a servant. It belonged to someone important, someone close to the royal family. Sobek's mind moved quickly. Who in the palace wore blue feathers, and why would that person want to make the Pharaoh's doctor disappear? He knew this small feather was the first real clue in a very big mystery, and he was determined to follow it wherever it led. Sobek left the physician's room and walked through the palace halls, thinking about the blue feather. He decided to speak with the palace servants first. An old servant woman told him something interesting. She said that 2 nights ago she saw a young noblewoman named Nefret walking near Imhotep's room very late at night. Nefret was known in the palace for her beautiful blue feather headdress. Sobek's eyes grew sharp with interest. Was Nefret connected to the missing doctor? He decided to visit her immediately. He found Nefret in a quiet garden, sitting beside a small pool of water, looking worried and pale. When Sobek asked her about the night Imhotep disappeared, her hands began to shake. She admitted that, yes, she had visited the doctor's room that night, but only because she was sick and needed medicine for her sick child. She said Imhotep gave her medicine and she left. Quickly, before anyone saw her, she swore she knew nothing about his disappearance. Sobek watched her face carefully as she spoke. Her fear seemed real, but something still felt incomplete, like a piece of the story was missing. Sobek thanked her and walked away, his mind full of new questions. If Nefret was telling the truth, then who else could have taken the doctor? The mystery was growing bigger, not smaller, and Sobek knew he needed to look in a very different direction. That night, Sobek could not sleep. He sat in his small house, looking at the blue feather under candlelight, turning it slowly in his fingers. Something about it bothered him. He remembered that Nefret's headdress had many feathers, all connected tightly together. But this single feather looked loose, like it had fallen from something else, something bigger. Suddenly, Sobek had an idea. He grabbed his bag and walked quickly back to the palace, even though it was very late. He wanted to check something important. The square royal treasury room, where valuable items were kept, including old ceremonial headdresses used only for special festivals. When he arrived, he found the guard asleep at his post, which was very unusual. Sobek quietly opened the treasury door and looked inside. There, hanging on the wall, was a large ceremonial headdress covered in blue feathers, exactly matching the one he found. But this headdress did not belong to Nefret. It belonged to someone else entirely. The palace treasurer, a man named Kaba, who managed all the gold and valuable items for Pharaoh. Sobek's heart began to beat faster. Why would the treasurer need to make the physician disappear? Unless Kaba was hiding something much bigger than a simple crime, something connected to gold, power, and a secret that could shake the entire kingdom. The next morning, Sobek requested to see the royal financial records, the scrolls that showed how much gold moved in and out of the treasury. The Pharaoh's advisors were surprised by this request, but they allowed it, because Sobek was known and trusted. Sobek spent hours reading the old scrolls carefully, line by line. Finally, he found something strange. Over the past year, small amounts of gold had been quietly disappearing from the treasury, always in tiny pieces, never enough for anyone to notice as easily. But when Sobek added all the missing gold together, it became a very large amount. Indeed, someone had been stealing from them, Pharaoh slowly, patiently, for a very long time. Sobek suspected that Kaba, the treasurer, was responsible, but he needed proof, and he needed to understand the connection to Imhotep's disappearance. Then Sobek remembered something important. Imhotep, as the Pharaoh's physician, visited the treasury regularly to check on medicines stored there for royal use. Perhaps Imhotep had noticed the missing gold too. Perhaps he had discovered Kaba's secret, and Kaba, afraid of being caught, decided he needed to silence the doctor before he could tell the Pharaoh the truth. Sobek's heart grew heavy with worry. If this was true, Imhotep might not simply be missing. He might be in terrible, immediate danger, and time was quickly running out to save him. Sobek rushed to find Kaba, but the treasurer was nowhere in the palace. A servant told Sobek that Kaba had left early that morning, heading toward the old stone quarry outside the city, a place rarely visited except by workers cutting large blocks of stone. Sobek felt a cold fear grow inside him. The quarry was empty, isolated, and far from help. It was the perfect place to hide someone, or to hide something terrible. Sobek ran through the city gates and followed the dusty road toward the quarry as fast as he could. When he arrived, he searched carefully among the tall stone walls and deep pits until he heard a faint, weak voice calling for help from a small cave near the quarry's edge. Sobek moved quickly toward the sound and found Imhotep, tied with rope, weak from hunger and thirst, but alive. Relief flooded through Sobek's chest. He quickly untied the doctor's hands and gave him water from his own bag. Imhotep, still shaking, confirmed everything Sobek suspected. He explained that he had discovered Kaba's secret theft of gold weeks earlier. But before he could tell the Pharaoh, Kaba's men captured him in the night and brought him here, planning to keep him hidden until they decided what to do with him permanently. Sobek knew there was no time to waste. Kaba was still out there, dangerous and desperate, and he needed to be stopped before he could hurt anyone else. Just as Sobek helped Imhotep stand up, they heard footsteps approaching quickly from Lizencray. Behind the quarry walls, Kaba appeared, his face twisted with anger and fear when he saw that his prisoner had been found. Beside him stood two large men, hired to protect his secret. Kaba shouted that Sobek should walk away and forget everything he had seen, but Sobek stood firm, protecting the weakened doctor behind him. Kaba's men moved forward threateningly, but Sobek was prepared. He had secretly sent word to the royal guards before entering the quarry, and now, right on time, a group of soldiers arrived, surrounding Kaba and his men completely. Kaba tried to run, pushing past his own men in panic, but the soldiers caught him easily before he could escape into the rocky hills. With Kaba finally captured, the truth came out completely. Kaba confessed everything: the stolen gold, the kidnapping of Imhotep, all of it done out of greed and fear of being discovered. The soldiers took Kaba away in chains, while Sobek helped Imhotep walk slowly back toward the city, supporting him every step of the way. The physician was safe now, and the stolen gold would soon be returned to the royal treasury. Sobek felt deep satisfaction, not just from solving the mystery, but from saving a good man's life and protecting his beloved city from a hidden danger that could have grown much worse. Sobek brought Imhotep safely back to the royal palace, where healers immediately cared for him, giving him food, water, and rest after his difficult days trapped in the quarry. Within hours, Imhotep felt strong, enough to walk to the Pharaoh's chamber, carrying with him the special medicine the Pharaoh needed so urgently. The Pharaoh's health slowly began to improve, and the entire palace filled with relief and gratitude. News of Sobek's clever detective work spread quickly through Thebes. People in the market talked about the Eye of the Nile, who had found the missing doctor and caught the greedy treasurer, saving both the good man's life and the Pharaoh's health at the same time. The Pharaoh himself, though still weak, requested to meet Sobek personally to thank him. Sobek stood humbly before the throne, and the Pharaoh praised his sharp mind, his patience, and his courage. He offered Sobek gold and honors, but Sobek asked for something simpler instead: the freedom to continue his work as a detective, helping people who needed justice, whether they were rich or poor, powerful or forgotten. The Pharaoh smiled and granted this wish, immediately understanding that a man like Sobek, driven by curiosity and fairness rather than gold, was exactly the kind of person Egypt needed most. From that day forward, whenever something mysterious happened along the Nile, whenever something seemed impossible to explain, people knew exactly who to call: the clever detective whose sharp eyes could see the truth hidden beneath every secret. Sobek's fame grew across all of Egypt, but he never changed who he truly was. He still lived in his small house near the market. He still walked the busy streets every morning, watching, listening, always noticing small details that other people missed. He solved many more mysteries after this one, missing treasures, secret plots, and hidden lies, but he always remembered the case of the missing physician as the moment he truly understood the power of careful thinking. He learned that the smallest clue, a tiny feather, a footprint in the dust, a missing piece of gold, could reveal the biggest truths if only someone was patient enough and brave enough to follow them all the way to the end. Sobek taught young apprentices his methods, passing down his skills of observation and logical thinking to a new generation of clever minds along the Nile. Years later, storytellers still spoke of the Eye of the Nile, the detective who saved a physician, caught a thief, and protected a Pharaoh using nothing but his intelligence. his patience, and his unwavering sense of justice. His story became a legend told to children beside evening fires, reminding everyone that heroes do not always carry swords or wear crowns. Sometimes the greatest heroes simply ask the right questions, look closely at the world around them, and never stop searching for the truth. No matter how difficult or dangerous that search may become. If this unique detective story surprised you, please subscribe for more incredible tales and share it with someone who loves a good mystery.